but then, like, okay, the example that I gave you about Bangladesh, is that really to support the country of Bangladesh, or is it action to support your local companies? And I'm afraid that it's very ineffective. A little bit a bigger strategy would be good for Japan to say, okay, no, it doesn't really make so much sense to make sure that every yen that we spend stays in Japan. It makes more sense that we spend money to build up relationships and to support companies to actually contribute something to countries like Bangladesh in an effective way, where people feel the benefit and they think, okay, this is very nice that a country is helping us to develop, and they really feel the benefit of the money that we spend. And then in the longer run, they invite Japanese companies to become partners because they have been working well with them together. The problem at the moment is that they do support them, but in a kind of like okay, very very narrow way, not really focused on supporting them, but on supporting the companies, and therefore a lot of projects fail. So I hope that Japan is capable of thinking a little bit further and taking a little bit more risk to actually become real partners, and not looking at every yen that they spend to stay in Japan, but every yen they spend to actually benefit local people, because at that way you create goodwill and you create good relations overseas, and that should be the objective of organizations like JICA. So give them a little bit more leeway to actually build up relations instead of making sure that we are not losing any yen on any development project. I think that would be my advice.
Okay, I'm thinking about that is so far, okay, past several years, Japanese need to understand more global, Westerners thinking way, or Westerners business style. But the other around, okay, overseas people who interested in Japanese people, Japanese company, they also need to thinking about Japanese way of thinking, right? So this is what I try to teach American people, European people, right? Right?
So,
but none of those people never thinking about before, right? Oh, Japanese value or what?
Japanese people are just strange. We don't get it, but they don't think like us. They're probably not trustworthy.
But some management is seriously thinking about. They don't understand Japanese, way of thinking. That's the reason they feel risky to make doing something with them, right? So, okay, Japanese side, you should understand what you earn, but overseas people also, they need to thinking about Japanese values, Japanese thinking approach.
Sure.
Otherwise, never closer.
Just make no mistake. I mean, I've been talking about it a lot. What Japanese people could do or should do in order to create better relationships with Westerners and Western companies. But that's only because we can much easier influence Japanese people than we can influence Western people. But of course, I'm not saying that this should be a one-way street. Absolutely not.
Like many American people, they never study Japanese language, and they never thinking about Japanese way of thinking. They try to force us to follow, right?
Right. Yeah, because I mean, the American way is the only way, right? That's the best way.
How about the European?
I think Europeans are a little
For
bit
example,
more
French.
open. Yeah, no. So French, they are very curious about learning more about the Japanese, and they admire Japanese culture. They're very eager to learn Japanese language. But I don't think that the French realize enough. They're too competitive, especially intellectually. They have a very deep belief that their way of thinking is the only way of thinking, is the more sophisticated way of thinking. So they don't really realize that their mindset is not the only mindset in the world. Right? Okay, the difference between an American and a French person is kind of obvious, but it's not that different, not compared to the difference between a French person and a Japanese person. The mindset is much further apart, so they cannot bridge it. They cannot really wrap their hands around it. So they think, okay, well, these people do a lot of things right, but I don't get it. So I don't really feel comfortable doing business there, and not realizing that actually they don't really have a lot of critical thinking towards their own ways of thinking.
We did a lot of study about gap among European and Japanese. Okay, we recognize gaps, but
right.
Japanese, what they're going to do, okay, but also the Westerners, if they want to know the gaps or those gaps, what kind of action they should do? Do you have something in your mind? If they want, okay, negotiation skill. If European people going to start doing business with Japanese company people, what they should do?
I think they should become aware of themselves.
Do you have some kind of mind for that kind of issues we can propose for those Western people, or instead for Japanese people recognize what the Western people need to change, what aspect, what kind of point?
Right. I think that but for me, but what was an eye opener for myself was that I became aware of the fact that my way of thinking is not the only way of thinking. That this is also just a thing that has been taught to me by my teachers, by my parents, by the society that I grew up with. So we have been educated and we lived in a world where linear active thinking models, etc., are the smart way of thinking, right? So this is.
No, I can't hear you suddenly. Wait a minute, I can't hear you. No.
Oh,
Okay.
My headset is running out of batteries.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so final question. Can you
Yes.
or can we change American value, changing value
American
toward
value.
Japanese?
Can we change American
Can no, they're like this. Can we change their thinking approach to Japanese people? They try to recognize Japanese value or Japanese thinking way. They can we encourage them to study kind of sort of area? Can we that they should understand, they should study Japanese value, or we can give them some awareness to recognize Japanese thinking way? It's impossible.
No, actually, so I think there if we can
Or
show
the other way, they are not afraid of, they are not worrying about, they cannot understand Japanese way of thinking, and
they do.
They do, right?
They do. Yeah.
So
They do. It's very difficult and frustrating for.
so can we give them some suggestion or some solution or something like that? Right? This is
Right.
this year, next year's concern.
Right.
So we need to
Yeah,
find out a
I think
solution to
so
help.
basically, so we have language gaps, we have cultural gaps about risk taking. We have like judicial facts gaps. We have gaps between relationship building and relying on the contracts. There's a lot that needs to be done in order for these two countries to build good, long-lasting business relations. So it's not a quick win. It will require quite a lot of work and investment from both sides in order to make that work.
So American people, especially American people, you have holding some concerns about kind of solve issues, and we can deliver how to solve those issues. Okay, this is my last question.